client of mine asked me a question about protein yesterday and thought I'd share my answer on here for everybody. He basically said, I know you can only utilise so much protein in one feeding. If I have a protein feeding, how long do I have to wait before I have another one? So when we're thinking about protein intake, we're mostly bothered with muscle protein synthesis, so for muscle building. Protein intake helps you build muscle if you're in a calorie surplus when you're gaining weight. It helps you maintain muscle when you're in a deficit, when you're losing. Number one priority for protein intake is total daily protein. So we're talking 1.8 times your weight in kilograms. As a baseline is the number of grams of protein you should be taking in per day. That's the most important. After total daily protein, then you can worry about protein spacing, how far apart, and then after that is a load of other little things like protein quality, etc. We know that the priority is this way round because the studies have been done. There's been studies comparing 3 to 6 meals a day and lots of combinations. So we know that basically between roughly 2 and 8, and more precisely between 3 and 6 meals per day, there's no difference in muscle protein synthesis and muscle building with that spacing. It doesn't make any difference what the spacing is. There's also been studies done in different levels of total daily protein intake, and they found that that really does make a difference. So your total daily protein intake is the more important factor. Like I said, 1.8 grams per kilogram is a good baseline, and anywhere in the range of 1.6 grams to 2.2, even higher than that, grams per kilogram can be acceptable as a total daily protein intake depending on your situation. So advice is hit your total daily protein intake, and then spacing doesn't really matter as long as you're not completely fucking it up. So as long as you're not eating all your protein in one go, you're spacing it between at least 3 to 6 meals per day, you're absolutely fine. So why does spacing matter at all? Well, a protein feeding needs to be enough protein of high enough quality to spark muscle protein synthesis, to set it off. For most people, this is about 30 to 40 grams of protein. More precisely, about 0.3 to 0.4 times your body weight in kilograms should be enough to maximally stimulate muscle protein synthesis. After muscle protein synthesis has been stimulated, it has what's called a refractory period, which means after it's spiked once, you can't just keep it high the whole time. It has to come back down again before you can spike it again. So you have to have a waiting period in between. This is probably at least a couple of hours in time, but like I said, if you're eating between 3 and 6 meals a day, you're probably hitting that, probably don't need to worry about it too much. Even if you're doing something like intermittent fasting, where you've only got 8 hours, if you eat a meal as soon as you start eating, and you eat one when you finish eating, you eat one in the middle, then you're doing 3 feedings of protein with a few hours in between, which meets the criteria as long as you're hitting your total daily protein intake. In summary, hit your total daily protein intake goal, spread it between 3 to 6 meals for the day with a few hours in between each. Don't eat all your protein in one go, don't graze on tiny bits of protein all day, and you're all good.